Thank you very much, Governor. Tizzy asked if we forgot to whine. I don't know about you, but I can still whine. Your Excellency, Sir Rodney Williams and Lady Williams, President of the Senate, the Honorable Alencia Williams Grant, colleague heads, colleague ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I take this opportunity to extend a warm welcome to everyone, and especially those of you who are visiting Antigua and Barbuda, the land of 365 natural beaches, where the beach is just the beginning. And I emphasize natural beaches because we build beaches here in Antigua and Barbuda, and I'm pretty sure that we are well in excess of 370 beaches today. Anyway, I warmly congratulate and welcome the council member, my dear colleague, the Honorable Cora Richardson Hodge, the outgoing chairman, on election as the first female Premier of Anguilla. Premier Richardson Hodge is also the perhaps third female member of the Monetary Council in the storied 42-year history of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. And I think that is a major achievement. Congratulations to you. But it is evident that we have a major issue of gender imbalance, and we have to promote greater gender equity within our sub-region, even the wider Caribbean region. And I believe that Premier Hodge is an example for females, and this is certainly your opportunity now to step up to the plate and to make yourselves available to govern your countries and our various institutions. So I hope that her achievement as the second female head of state within the OECS will embolden and encourage other females to step forward, to lead at the highest level, to become a head of state, and to lead our various institutions as we seek to promote greater gender equity within the Eastern Caribbean sub-region and beyond throughout the wider Caribbean region. Now, the first member of the Monetary Council was the late Dame Mary Eugenia Charles, the former Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Dominica. And she was one of the signatories to the agreement that established the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. I'm told that the second was the former Minister Margaret Annie Dyer Howe from Montserrat, who last served the Council back in 2006. This means that it has been almost 20 years since our last female council member, and I'm therefore again appealing to our females to make yourselves available, to get in the game, and also for the males to create that pathway for your advancement within the governance of our respective countries. Governor Antoine, I certainly want to thank you on behalf of all the members of the Monetary Council for your strong leadership and stewardship of the Central Bank. And I commend the ECCB management and staff for your hard work and professionalism in service to our region's development. I also congratulate the bank on its strong financial performance, including record profits of $126.2 million and the payment of the dividends. In fact, Antigua and Barbuda got quite a sizable dividend check just about a month ago. I won't tell you how much. Excellencies, it is with humility and certainly a profound sense of duty that I now assume the chairmanship of the Monetary Council on behalf of the government and people of Antigua and Barbuda. This is a responsibility that I take very seriously, particularly at this time of great geopolitical uncertainty for the global economy and our Caribbean civilization. This evening, notwithstanding these challenges, we stand resolute in our commitment to collective action to sustain our monetary and financial stability and to further strengthen our resilience as a region and people. I'd like to speak briefly about the ECCBU, which remains steadfast and resilient amidst the unfolding effects of these key policy shifts. Our economies continue to exhibit resilience as they emerge from the extended shadows of the COVID-19 pandemic and as they navigate the effects of geopolitical conflicts with the attendant inflation and US policy shifts. Growth in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union is likely to average about 3% in 2025 and 2026, as indicated by the distinguished governor during his presentation. Evidently, 3% is well short of the 7% required to meet the big push, as indicated by Governor Antoine. And if we're to double the size of our economy over the next decade, clearly we have to exceed that 3% and to get up to the 7%. So this projection of 3% represents a call to action by all citizens, all residents within our currency union. Notwithstanding the vagaries and the vicissitudes of the global economy, we must now redouble our collective efforts to build resilience, to enhance our growth prospects, so as to ensure shared and sustained prosperity for the people of our region. And I want to make a fundamental point here this evening, that we must be architects of our development. Sustained, enhanced growth requires us to become architects of our development, reducing our dependency on foreign capital and expanding the domestic ownership class of the revenue-generating assets in our sub-region. Ownership is empowerment, and we must own those revenue-generating assets. This policy shift would result in economic empowerment of our people and the retention of profits to fuel more robust growth and development, thereby increasing the individual and collective wealth of our countries and their people. And it is important for every citizen, every resident to understand that you cannot build a successful nation of poor people. And whereas I do accept from time to time you'll have pockets of poverty, we must work collectively and unrelentingly to build the individual and collective wealth of our people and our nation. I must add that this policy shift must be supported by increased entrepreneurship, creativity, and innovation. Now, instead of marrying ourselves in can-do rhetoric, we must become a can-do people who will generate tangible value utilizing our knowledge and skills for the development of our respective countries. Too many among us are quick to tell us what cannot be done. As I said, we must become a can-do people. For example, I am of the firm view that the central bank has a significant role to play in catalyzing these domestic investments in revenue and foreign exchange earning assets. We have to go beyond the traditional role of central banks. When these major economic models were developed, they were not developed for small microstates. And we must develop our own economic models, our bespoke models, taking into consideration the idiosyncrasies and certainly the limited capital formation within the currency region. And this will require bold, deliberate action, frame-breaking action, not for us to be timid and to do what others tell us to do. In fact, I make the point here too that there is absolutely no compelling reason whatsoever why the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank cannot utilize a small portion of its reserves, let's say up to 3% of its reserves, in US dollar denominated government securities on the Eastern Caribbean Stock Exchange to provide a portion of the capital that would fund these revenue and foreign currency generating businesses, especially in the tourism sector. It can be done, and again, we don't want to hear that it can't be done. We are a can-do people. And Governor, my instructions to you today as a council member and certainly as a chairman is for you to gather your team together and make it happen. And let me state categorically that the risk of investing 100% of all our reserves in U.S. securities is far greater than investing 3% of our reserves on the Eastern Caribbean Stock Exchange, denominated in U.S. dollars in OECS government securities. The risk is far less, because at the end of the day, those securities that you're holding in the United States and perhaps in other hard currencies, they have no tangible assets back in them. What if, for example, the United States finds itself in difficulties and decide that there has to be a haircut on all securities? Then clearly, you will see a reduction in the value of your reserves and a reduction in the value of the backing currency, or the backing ratio. So I'm saying this to say that greater confidence must be shown in our own development, and you must put a small percentage of those reserves on our Eastern Caribbean Stock Exchange in our government bonds, denominated in US dollars, so they still form a part of your reserve. And again, Mr. Governor, we are can-do people, and I don't expect you and your staff to come and tell us that it can't be done. It can be done, and it shall be done. And let me make the point here too, that these could be short-term US denominated securities that could be consistently rolled over, like you do with the US securities that you're rolling over year after year, thereby preserving your backing ratio. So if you can you can buy US securities of the Federal Reserve Bank, where you can buy government securities in US dollars on the ECCB. Again, I see no compelling reason or reasons why it cannot be done. And I make the point here too, that the securities will have the backing of the governments, could be serviced by the cash flows generated by the investments, as well as an assignment of the dividend payments payable to our respective governments from time to time from the profits generated by the bank. And in the unlikely event of a shortfall, then the governments will be called upon to make the payments. So, Mr. Governor, let's get bold, creative, and innovative by taking prudent risks to accelerate growth and development of our region. If we can't show confidence in our region, then who will? And I trust that the pursuance of this type of frame-breaking policy decision will be one of the decisions emanating from this council meeting. Even if it is not effected from this council meeting, at least there must be a commitment to seriously pursue this initiative. Now, the prevailing lack of confidence in our own and the requirement of validation by others external of the region must be addressed with urgency, failing which our reserves will be utilized to build other economies while stymieing our own growth and development. What sense does that make? And Marky, I understand the issue of risk, I understand the need for liquidity, but I'm saying here the central bank can do more to catalyze investments within the OECS sub-region. So you have to go beyond the traditional role of a central bank of being buyer of last resort and literally taking care of the monetary aspects of our governance. Now, here in Antigua and Barbuda, we anticipate above average growth as we roll out key infrastructural projects, including our major roads and airports rehabilitation programs. And I state airports here, as you know, we now have 2 international airports, and we will be refurbishing, well, we're currently refurbishing the VC Bird International Airport, and we'll be expanding the Barbuda Airport, and we'll be also building out a new terminal. So those are 2 significant public sector investment projects. And those 2 projects, as well as the private sector investments in several luxury resorts, as well as the upland development for our 5th cruise tourism berth, will see robust growth here in Antigua and Barbuda for yet another year. And I want to take this opportunity to commend the people of Antigua and Barbuda for contributing to economic growth and development to the extent almost invariably on a yearly basis. We exceed the regional average. In fact, I believe for every year, we have exceeded the regional average. The governor spoke about different indicators, and I'm very pleased to say that we're doing extremely well. When you look at the debt to GDP indicator, currently we're at about 62%. Came down from 104%. At one point we were last in class. Today, I believe we're first in class. And again, it shows the resilience, the performance of the people of Antigua and Barbuda. Even our banks, they are among the best capitalized within the OECS sub-region. And again, we had the unfortunate situation back in 2014 in which we inherited an economy where there was fiscal failure, there was financial or banking failure, and there was economic failure. And just to quantify or to elaborate, we had a situation in which the economy contracted by 25% over a 4-year period between 2009 and 2014. And we also had at least 2 failed banks. We had Bank of Antigua, we also had ABI Bank, and our government had to intervene to save Caribbean Union Bank. In addition to that, you had a fiscal situation in which the government at the time could not even pay for basic services, could not pay for water. They owed Semcor $22 million at the time without any credit terms and could not pay. They owed a high group of companies $47 million electricity without any credit terms and could not pay. They owed Western Rizal Company $89 million without any credit terms and could not pay. And again, it is the Gaston Browne administration that cleaned up the mess and has now positioned Antigua and Barbuda as a beacon of success within the OECS Union. Now, tomorrow we will travel to Barbuda for the 111th meeting of the Monetary Council. And this is spring break. Never happened before. In fact, tomorrow I believe that Prime Minister Jew and maybe one other will join us directly in Barbuda. They didn't need to come to Antigua, they're flying directly into Barbuda. That's the nature of the development that is taking place on that island. Now, this will be a historic moment, or an historic moment, as this will be the first time such an event would have occurred on Barbuda. And I promise you that there will be many more in the near future. Barbuda is now the newest island conference destination within the Caribbean region. Now, the hosting of this high-level meeting in Barbuda is testament to the transformation of Barbuda that is now on the way. And again, this is indicative of the contribution, the resilience, the performance of the people of Antigua and Barbuda. We are leading this transformation, but clearly, it is your success just as it is the success of the executive. It was almost 8 years ago, as you would recall, that our sister island was decimated by Hurricane Irma. Lest we forget, the scenes in Barbuda, in the aftermath of this Category 5 storm, they were dire and desolate to the extent that the island at that time was deemed to be uninhabitable. Yet today, Barbuda has risen like the proverbial phoenix from the ashes, and persons are literally flocking to Barbuda. They are no longer fleeing from Barbuda, but they are flocking to Barbuda for investment and employment opportunities. Can you imagine? During the past 2 years, there has been reverse migration. Antiguans are now traveling to Barbuda to seek employment and entrepreneurial opportunities. That is what you call transformation. Now, it is a remarkable turnaround. This is a most impressive transformation. I mean, a story of resilience and courage from an island, as I said before, that was deemed to be uninhabitable, to becoming a marquee tourism destination, a luxury destination within the Caribbean region. Let's hear it for the Antigua and Barbuda people now. And I want to say that I'm very proud of you, my dear people, with that type of courage and resilience, that type of performance in which Barbuda is condemned. And today people are literally rushing to get real estate, paying multiples of what they pay for real estate in Antigua. Because again, we never gave up on Barbuda. While others were saying it was uninhabitable, we said that, look, we're going to transform Barbuda into a luxury island destination. And normally, that type of vision takes takes some time to materialize, but within a matter of years, it is happening. And I would say 5 years from now, Barbuda will be a significantly better place. In fact, I believe that within the next 5 years, Barbuda will become the most significant luxury destination in the entire Caribbean region. Now, during my tenure as chairman, I will work closely with my Monetary Council colleagues, the distinguished governor, and certainly Team ECCB, our partners and stakeholders, to advance key priorities. And I want to list some of these priorities. The governor and my distinguished colleague here, Premier Hodge, would have literally covered a number of these issues, so excuse the repetition. The repetition is for elucidation and for emphasis. So I want to speak initially about maintaining monetary and financial stability. Financial stability, as you're aware, is a vital enabler for sustainable growth and development of our region. The Monetary Council will advance the establishment of a deposit insurance program and complete the operationalization of the Regional Credit Bureau. I'm pleased to confirm that Antigua and Barbuda, as the governor indicated, has signed the Deposit Insurance Agreement and enacted the Deposit Insurance Corporation Agreement Bill. Last September, Antigua and Barbuda was the first country in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union to go live with the Regional Credit Bureau, with the Caribbean Union Bank, CUB, leading the way. I now turn to strengthening the oversight and regulation of the Century by Investment Program, CBI or CIP programs. Given the significance of these programs, the CBI, CIP programs to the 5 participating countries to include Antigua and Barbuda, establishing the CBI, CIP regional regulator, that is the Eastern Caribbean Century by Investment Regulatory Authority, the ECCB, is a very high priority. These programs contribute to the pool of our foreign reserves and profits of the central bank, thereby benefiting the 3 member countries that do not have such programs. So I want to say to my colleague heads who may have issues with these programs, you too, your countries are benefiting, so careful how you criticize them. And as you're aware, my dear countrymen and countrywomen, I have repeatedly stated that these programs are so important to the sub-region. They should not be the subject of partisan battleground politics. But we need you, the people of Antigua and Barbuda, and all of the citizens and residents within the OECS, to hold these irresponsible opposition elements accountable for the fact that they're trying to tear down these programs, which, if they discontinue, will create immense hardships for people. The governor just said to you that these programs contribute the majority of our non-tax revenue. So what are you mashing them up for? To prove what? To get in the government to preside over the ashes? So we're calling for responsible opposition and to join us to work collectively to enhance these programs to ensure their sustainability. Now, the legislative framework for the regional regulator has been drafted and shared with key stakeholders, both local and external, to include our international partners, the United States, the United Kingdom, and the European Union for comments. The relevant heads have committed to enact the new framework before the end of this year. And I give a commitment that as soon as the consultations are completed within a matter of weeks, I'd say no more than 3 weeks, we'll be going to Parliament to make the changes. I believe we have the best performing Attorney General within the entire Caribbean region. So I know that I can give a commitment that within 3 weeks, upon the completion of the consultations, we will make those changes and to ensure that the act or the bill is actually passed into an act. Now we are finalizing the draft legislation for submission, and again, as I said, we will enact in a very short period of time. I would love to speak now to enhancing financial sector stability. Work on establishing the Eastern Caribbean Financial Standards Board, the ECFSB, will continue in earnest this year. The ECFSB will be tasked with the development and issuance of standards for our non-bank financial institutions, including credit unions, insurance companies, and money remitters. In fact, some of our credit unions are larger than some of the small banks within the Eastern Currency Union, so we have to establish standards for them and to make sure that they are properly regulated. And the issue of enhancing financial literacy and promoting financial inclusion. The Monetary Council recognizes every person's right to have access to the financial system, as this is a prerequisite for an economically active and thriving citizenry. The Governor spoke about this extensively, and we are very serious about ensuring inclusion, to make sure that no one is excluded, no one is left behind. We will continue to push for commercial banks to eliminate the unnecessary bureaucracy to facilitate opening of basic bank accounts for the underserved and the vulnerable among us. It seems as though some people believe that they become more important by becoming more bureaucratic. But we are listening to the concerns, we are listening carefully. And I see some bankers here. I want you to know that we're not going to allow you to get away with contempt. And I haven't heard the concerns of our people about poor customer service and sometimes mistreatment by these financial institutions. Work will be accelerated on the establishment of an Office of Financial Conduct and Inclusion, the OFCI, to address financial market conduct supervision. So we'll be holding our bankers accountable. You know, some of them end up in the lofty offices, you know, and they forget about, they have no respect for the poor and the ordinary. In fact, they don't have respect for those among us who may have some status within the society. They operate as though the authorities unto themselves. They act in their own time. They have no respect for the people's time. And we have to do something about it, because you know what they're doing? They're damaging the investment climate. And I don't know that people can be promoting self-importance over the advancement of our country. So we're calling you all out because we want you all to do better and to know that we now put in the legislative and regulatory framework to hold you accountable. Now, it's unfortunate that in the 21st century, in 2025, that our bankers have routinely failed to offer efficient and respectable service. But instead, in many instances, have opted to provide slow, crude, and contemptuous service. I saw during a period that some banks had people out in the sun, their customers, you know, for hours in the hot sun, 80 degrees, 80-something degrees. They couldn't get a tent to provide a shelter. Are you telling me that that kind of behavior is acceptable in the 21st century when they're generating up to $110 million between the two largest domestic banks in profits? And, you know, I wish to make it abundantly clear that good service is good business. And we expect to see urgent realignments in the service offered by our banks. Some people feel as though they have to be obstructive to be important, you know. They want to play heavy within the society, and in order to play heavy, they become obstructive, they become contemptuous. But what value does that provide to the economy? What you're doing, you're destroying our economy, you're destroying our competitiveness. And let me remind all of our bankers that all competition is global. So you may think that the impact of your actions would only impact on maybe your little domestic space. But we have a situation too in which compliance officers and others in the banking sector, they have made it extremely difficult. They have moved extremely slow. They have literally slowed down business in this country. You know, to open a bank account, you know, they treat you like a common thief. And you can go to other countries, you know, and open a bank account the same day, provided you have all of the supporting documents. In this case, when you call them up, they tell you can only get an appointment maybe 30 to 60 days down the line. And you think that is busy, they're busy. It's plain important at the expense of our people. And I want to make the point here too that compliance officers and others in the banking sector who have made it extremely difficult, they need to realign. Because what they're doing, you know, whereas they're satisfying their personal egos and maybe trying to establish their importance within the society, what they're doing is that they are inadvertently undermining our region's global competitiveness and ultimately our development. So your slow actions, your ridiculous questioning and playing police officers, law enforcement officers instead of bankers, you're killing business. So please realign, because we are trying to provide resilient prosperity for all our people. And this type of bureaucratic ignorance is totally unhelpful. And let me remind you too, service is love. Let's show some love and serve our people graciously and efficiently at all levels of our society. Now, Antigua and Barbuda has already passed the Banking Amendments Bill to establish this office in the central bank, designed to address these malpractices in the banking sector and to ensure financial inclusion. And by the way, let me just issue this caveat. It's not all our bankers like that, so I'm not treating all of them with a broad brush. But plenty of them are like that. In fact, I see a particular one from FCIB, most professional and efficient, and I'm very pleased with the type of service they've been offering. And I think that domestic banks, that they can learn one or two things from FCIB. Sorry for the plug. Anyway, I want to now speak to enhancing climate resilience and supporting the renewable energy transition, which is a very important issue for all of us. In the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, fossil fuels still make up about 88% of our energy mix, which means that only about 12% of our energy comes from renewables. And the current energy mix is the major factor for high electricity prices. It burdens household budgets and adversely impacts our region's competitiveness. And for these reasons, and for our energy security and resilience, the Monetary Council will support the expansion of the Resilient Renewable Energy Infrastructure Investment Facility, the RREIIF, led by the Central Bank, with major funding from the World Bank and grants from Canada and the Green Climate Fund. And again, I want to commend the Governor of the Central Bank, who is leading this initiative. Distinguished colleagues, climate change remains the most significant existential threat of our region, or to our region. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, has predicted an above normal Atlantic hurricane season for 2025. NOAA forecasts up to 19 named storms, 6 to 10 are likely to become hurricanes, including 3 to 5 becoming major hurricanes. It is therefore imperative that we redouble our advocacy for concessional financing, and perhaps more importantly, advocacy for these large polluters to reduce their emissions. And we need to certainly do so on behalf of our people and to continue to fight unrelentingly. Climate justice requires our unrelenting, collective and strident advocacy at all levels of our society, our whole of society intervention. So no matter how small or young, provided we have some level of consciousness, this is a fight that all of us should conjoin our efforts and to ensure that we continue to advocate for climate justice. Supporting member governments in efforts towards digitalization is also a very important issue. The governor spoke about that and the transition into artificial intelligence, extremely important as we seek to leap forward. And in order to leap forward, we must embrace the opportunities for digitalization, to include the use of artificial intelligence by investing in critical technologies and to foster innovation and collaboration. Our government has been doing that at the UE5 Islands campus, and as you know, we have this annual AI conference in which we bring experts from all over the world to share insights as to how we can utilize AI to increase efficiency and at the same time to add value to our economy. And we've been providing scholarships for our people. We give at least 25 scholarships annually to our people, to our students, to attend UE5 Islands in order to qualify in artificial intelligence and computing science. Too many of our people are still not connected, and the creativity of our youth is stymied by our snail pace of technological absorption. We must therefore commit to making broadband connectivity a public good. In fact, broadband connectivity is just as important as the provision of water and electricity, a public good. and certainly, broadband services that would be more universally accessible and affordable, while holding our telecommunication companies accountable for delivering the required quality and affordable prices, because that is one of the problems we've had within the region. We have this oligopolistic sector in which prices have been relatively high. In fact, I'm going to speak frankly, they have been price gouging on so many years, and that has to stop. You have to understand that the provision of broadband services at an affordable price is a public good, and the telecoms companies, they too have their obligation to provide broadband services of good quality at an affordable price. In fact, the use of high-speed broadband connectivity and the responsible use of artificial intelligence AI is an imperative for all sectors, including healthcare, education, agriculture, micro, small, and medium-sized businesses, and for the generation of employment opportunities, especially for youth. Now, faster digitalization will facilitate greater public sector efficiency, enhance fiscal and debt sustainability, and climate resilience. Our government's own telecoms, APOPCS, recently invested in acquiring its own subsea cable, because what we want to do is to make sure that when this subsea cable is installed within the next 12 months, that we can provide more affordable and accessible broadband services to all. I even said to them, in fact, we've had this discussion in our cabinet, we'll have a BITS model so that you can get a good broadband service with significant bandwidth at a very low price. In fact, it'll be the lowest in the market, certainly less than what the other commercial carriers are offering. And we want to make sure that, especially within our schools and public institutions, that there is no limitation in terms of the quality and the affordability of broadband services. I mean, within our schools, for example, they must have adequate broadband services, even in the delivery of the various subjects, the various modules at UE, Five Islands, and certainly at I think it's State College and other tertiary institutions. So, as I conclude, or in closing, I want to affirm Antigua and Barbuda's strong commitment to our monetary union, which continues to serve us very well. And we bring to the table our commitment to innovation, entrepreneurship, and entrepreneurship, and certainly our demonstrated commitment to regionalism and our determination to see every citizen thrive. Ultimately, what we want to achieve is resilient prosperity for all our people, and to make sure that we have egalitarian policies that will uplift all the people. Now, as the Monetary Council and custodians of economic policy, we are confident that through a shared purpose, bold thinking, and strong collaboration, we will advance our transformative agenda and certainly our Caribbean civilization. May God's blessings, guidance, and certainly our collective action propel our success this year and beyond. I thank you.